Welcome to the final week of July here at the Stafford Motor Speedway, where the action will once again be hot here on the racetrack Friday night. Also pretty warm in the air right now.
Yes, it is muggy, and it's going to be more of the same on Friday. It's been pretty hot the last few weeks. We just need it to stay dry. That's the big thing. But man, this season has gone by fast, Kyle. We're approaching the final 2 months of the year. Where has the time gone?
And it has been broken up in recent weeks
Yes.
with the Superstar Racing Experience. Our weekly divisions have been off because of Mother Nature, with the exception of the SK Light Modifieds last week and the SK Modifieds 2 weeks ago. But I feel like it's been forever since we've seen the Fender divisions.
Yes, it's a good reset for them. After several weeks of racing, they've had a couple weeks to work on their race cars, better them, and get prepared for the second half of the season. So it's the most crucial part of the year, the final 2 months, especially when you look at the big picture in the championship. You really got to hit your strides right now.
And speaking of hitting their stride, we'll talk about Tyler Chapman hitting his stride in the SK Light Modifieds. Obviously, the SK Light's going to be the premier division this Friday night with Dunleavy's Modifiedz night.
40 laps, a lot of money on the line. I think I saw $2,000 for the winner, which is a lot. And Tyler Chapman just came off a $1,500 prize last week, winning the Monaco Ford SK Light 30, holding off Alex Pearl, which was a great battle, by the way. It was a really fun battle to watch. They kept it clean. Pearl was so close, but it was his best run of the year, so we'll see what he has in store for this Friday. But going back to Tyler Chapman, 3 wins in the last 5 races if you include the non-points race last week. The first half of the year, he had speed. He started off finishing second, but just got caught up in accidents. The last 40-lapper, he broke before the green flag even came out, so he had no chance to see what his car had then. But I think he's going to be a pretty good contender this coming Friday. He's been fast the last 5-6 weeks, and it's sure to continue this time around. But the winner of the last 40-lapper is our point leader.
And that driver, Bonssa, is perhaps the most rested in Brian Sullivan, who was not here for the Monaco Ford 30 non-points event last week.
But he's back this Friday for the next points event, and he won last time in the 40-lapper, held off George Bissett Jr. by about a car length. It was really close. So Brian Sullivan has stayed consistent all year long. He started off really hot, winning 3 races in the first month and a half of the season. That's why he's the point leader, and he's got a pretty good gap to second place.
So 40 laps of the SK Light Modified. It's going to be another great and competitive field. It always is when they hit the racetrack. Let's talk about the SK Modifieds. Keith Rocco had gotten hot. Have these last 2 weeks maybe had an opportunity to cool him off a bit?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that momentum is still there. I mean, they've been so good the last 2 races. And when you look at the weather, I mean, not much has changed weather-wise. It's still hot. The track conditions might change because we've had a lot of rain, so it's washed off a lot of rubber. But whatever that 22 team has figured out, it's not going to go away just like that. They're going to be really tough to beat. I mean, the last time he won, he started 14th.
Yep.
Going 14th to first is not easy. So Kid Rock, he's back in his stride, although I don't really think it's fair to say that they lost their stride. They just had to figure out the car. Now they have, and now they're the hottest driver. But Todd Owen, once again, Kyle, it just seems like we don't talk about him much, but in the big picture, he's always up there, and now he's on top.
Still looking for his first win of the year, but has finished among the top 10 in all of the races thus far, and more times than not in the top 5. Does Keith Rocco have enough time left? You mentioned a little bit ago, just 2 months. Does he have enough time left to make his way into the top 5 and challenge for this championship?
Absolutely. I have no doubt. It just takes one bad night for the whole points picture to flip. Just ask Jimmy Blewett.
Yep.
He didn't even wreck last time they raced. He had a half spin in turn 4, fell back after the race did not go into caution because he kept going and lost probably 10 spots on the track, and that cost him the point lead. So it just takes one night where the point leader has a bad race while the other drivers don't, and it tightens everything up significantly.
And Todd Owen hasn't had many of those nights over the last 3 seasons, so we'll see if he can keep out on top of the championship standings over the last 2 months of the season. Last time we ran the late models, remember way back in the first week of July, it was Tom Fern that picked up the win in the heat there. It's going to be hot again. He always has stressed he loves racing in the heat.
And there's something about Tom coming off a bad week and capitalizing the next race by winning, because the week before his win, that car was tore to pieces. He was caught in that big wreck in turn 2. Pretty much led most of the race last time. It was around this time last year where we really saw the 92 hit their stride and win a lot of races in the second half of the season. It could be more of the same, but I think one of the hottest drivers in that division, honestly, the hottest driver in my opinion, is Kevin Gambacorta, because he finished second last week and he won the previous 2 races before that, and that's why he's got the point lead. That 23 team have been really good in the last well, I can't say last month because they've only raced once in the last month, but in the last 3 races, that 23 team has been really solid.
And that's why he's the championship point leader by 36 points. Little bit of a cushion there atop the late model standings. In the women late models, a lot of talk about Jeremy Lavoie, but how about last year's champion? Is now the time for Rich Hammond to strike?
Yes, it is, because time is going to run out real quick. It was around this time last year where the second half of the season wasn't as good as the first half, but he still had the championship thanks to 4 wins in the first half of last season. Now, the first half hasn't really been that great compared to what they're expecting. I mean, he hasn't won a race yet. He had a couple podiums at the beginning of the season, but since then, he hasn't found the podium. So they're still figuring the car out. He says they haven't adapted to the track conditions yet. They got 2 months to go to figure that out. Otherwise, it's nothing but Lavoie, Clement, and Cormier, who've been the top 3 cars pretty much all year.
Jeremy Lavoie, the most recent winner 3 weeks ago. And in the straight stocks, Travis Downey was able to become the 3rd different winner of the season, finally getting that first win and snapping the Waterman Haidar streak.
It was bound to happen eventually, right? Downey had such a bad start to the year, but ever since those couple DNFs, they've been working their way up, getting a top 6, a top 5, a podium. Now they got to victory lane. He got past Aaron Plemons with about 2 laps to go, and it was, again, I hate saying this time last year, but there's some parallels between last season and this season. Downey got his first ever street stock win in July last year and then went on to win 2 more times within a month and a half. It's going to be the same case this time around? I don't know. But Downey has figured that car out over the last month or so. That car has been faster. We'll see if he can keep it consistent. That's one time we've seen someone beat Haidar and Waterman, but can they keep doing that every Friday night?
And I want to touch on 3rd place street stock contender Bert Willett. Has had a great year, still looking for that first win. He's been consistent toward the front, but in several different race cars, and he's going to be in another new one this week.
Yeah, he's driving a car owned by Randy Higginson, and they got that car a little bit of track time this week, and they feel good about the car, so we'll see what they have in store. But it's been a crazy season for Bert Willett. But as you mentioned, he's still 3rd in points despite being in a couple different rides, so it's tough because you're adapting to a new car. And then just when you're about adapted to that car, you're in a new ride again. So it might take a couple weeks for them to figure out that car and make it happy and make Bert happy. But if they do, we know what Bert can do. He's been fighting for the podium every week in the last 2 years. He's got a couple victories. I don't know how much the big picture matters to him now, but just trying to figure that car out and win as many races as possible is huge.
And usually in front of Bert on that podium, Ryan Waterman, the championship point leader by 12 over Travis Haidar heading into the last couple of months of the season. Going to be a big night on the racetrack and behind the grandstands. Kids Night.
Yes, Kids Night is back. So we'll see the big wheels in action. And I know one of the kids has won the last 2 big wheel races. He's excited to make it 3 in a row. But those kids, man, 15, 20 of them, 5, 6 years old, all of them want to win, and they're very competitive.
And the Honor Wellness Center out of Manchester is going to be here with their annual Touch-A-Truck on the Midway. I think there's going to be like 17 to 20 vehicles on hand.
It's insane. There's going to be so many different types of vehicles that these kids get a chance to look at, and it's really cool to see in person. I'm sure the kids will love it. It'll be a fun experience for them.
All emergency response vehicles from the region here in Stafford. So it's going to be a big night, Kids Night here on the racetrack with big wheels. Dunleavy's Modifiedz night for the SK Light Modifiedz. Part of the big race program. We hope you can be here to join us in person. All the action gets underway at 6 o'clock. And if you can't be here, don't forget you can always tune us in on Flow Racing.